Since mid-season, the story of the IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Championship has been Ferrari versus Ford. As the second half has unfolded, the fight has become more of a bare-knuckles variety, topped by James Weaver being squeezed to the limit by Mauro Baldi in Mosport. Today, Weaver is ready to reach for his first major North American racing championship for Ford. To get it, he'll have to overcome the series points leader, Fermin Velez, fastest gun in the Ferrari corral. Deep in the heart of Texas, Texas World Speedway plays host to the IMSA Exxon Sitel Texas World Grand Prix, round 9 on the IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Championship for 1995. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with IMSA veteran Elliott Forbes Robinson. We have a great many stories to tell you about. With so few races remaining in the season, driver and manufacturer championships are at stake. Here's a look at the World Sports Car Driver Championship. Fermin Velez of Spain leads James Weaver of Great Britain by just 7 points, with Mauro Baldi and former series leader Jim Pace still in close attendance. And we have a great story right up on the front row. There you see the Ferrari number 33 and the Ford R&S Mark III number 20. Michele Alboreto, Formula One star for Ferrari, will start the bright red machine. Andy Wallace, a Le Mans winner, will start number 20. Both teams have other cars in this race, and the question is, when will our points leaders get in, Elliott?
They'll get it in the last possible moment, Bob. They'll wait to see which car is running good to the end of the race and jump in that car.
The car you start is the one you score points in. Now, with more on James Weaver's story, let's get down to Marty Reed.
Well, not only does James Weaver find himself sandwiched between two Ferraris as far as the points championship is concerned, that's the way it looks on the grid as well. You feel like a piece of meat in this sandwich right now?
Definitely, but the meat's the best part of the sandwich, isn't it?
All right, now let's get real serious about this, because let's go back to Mosport. You and Mauro Baldi, very close there at the end of the race. Everything squared away there? Is everything okay between the two of you?
Yeah, there never was a problem between us. You know, I have the highest regard for Mauro. You know, I think if you ask anybody in the paddock, they'll say he's the best driver here, and he's the one we all want to beat, so no problem at all.
And as far as today's race, what is it going to take to win? The heat seems to be the key factor.
Yeah, our car's excellent. The balance doesn't really change very much when it gets hot, and the Goodyears are terrific on a hot track. So, you know, I think we'll be as competitive as we have been. I think Ferrari being a bit antisocial, bringing Alboreto over, it's rather overdoing it, making our job a little bit more difficult. It's going to be a great race.
Yeah, but I thought you wanted to be the meat in the sandwich as long as it's not turkey, right?
Couldn't put it better.
All right, well, keep your eye on him, because he either will be going into the number 20 or the number 16.
All right, thanks, Marty. Since you brought it up, here are our post-time weather conditions. 93 degrees hot with a typical Texas south wind blowing. Humidity up around 60%. It is going to be a very tough afternoon for the drivers, EFR.
It's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough on the cars. It's going to be tough on the tires, because the tires are going to get a lot of heat in them in these long corners here. It's going to be very difficult on a lot of this, and the heat does not make it easier just because you're in an open car.
Here's a look at our starting lineup. We should point out there are 3 different classes of cars in competition today. The Exxon World Sports Cars competing among themselves, as well as for the overall honors. We'll also have the production-based Exxon Supreme GTS-1 and GTS-2 machines, Oldsmobiles, Mazdas, and so forth, retaining the shape of their road-going brothers. But they are full-on race cars, and they will be racing for points and prize money, as well as a position in the overall field. We have a big field today. 32 cars will be using the infield road course here at Texas World Speedway, as well as a portion of this steeply banked and ultra high-speed oval. And the cars, according to testing times turned in by the Dyson Ford R&S Mark III team, up around 200 miles an hour and more on the banking. So the drivers are going to have to be on their toes throughout the day. Traffic is likely to be a factor as well.
The closing speeds are going to be really a lot here, because you can see the banking is so long and you're on a straight for most of the time you're at this racetrack.
200 miles an hour approaching that first turn. Now let's step aboard with Dan Pastorini driving a Porsche in competition in the GTS-2 category today.
He's quite lucky, actually. This is coming in on the banking towards the start-finish line now, and then the drop of the green flag, and he's heading off.
And Michele Alboreto, winner of 5 Formula One Grand Prix races in his history with the Ferrari team, takes the lead over Andy Wallace, a two-time winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And there you see our contenders right up front, the two Scandia Engineering Ferraris and the two Riley and Scott Mark III Ford chassis.
Great start by Butch Leitzinger that time, coming from back and getting right up on that lead group.
Butch Leitzinger, the young former GTS2 champion from State College, Pennsylvania, has been doing a great job for the Dyson team and their Ford chassis this year.
The hard part on a race like this is to remember that it's a 3-hour race. It is not just a 15-minute race that you're going to go out, because it's so hard to control yourself, knowing that the heat is going to be a factor, that the racetrack is going to be a factor, but you still want to lead. You're going to want to go for it, and it's very tough to hold yourself back at this time.
Terminal velocity on the front straight. Now hard on the brakes and down through the gearbox as they dive down to the infield portion. Looks like Wallace is going to take a shot at Alboreto down into one. Whoa.
Tough move. It's a hard place to pass, and I don't even think Alboreto he was going to really go for it at that time. But he really wants to get, Wallace wants to lead this race.
Kelly Alboreto aboard. And they touch, and around goes, well, not completely around goes, but Kelly Alboreto, and he's going to lose places.
Well, that's a strange move for so early in the race, first lap, to be making that kind of move. You'd think you'd save that for later in the race.
Check for damage on Wallace's car. You can see a little bit at the front left corner.
It's not much. The Ford, that has been a really strong and good car, but it's does look like they're going for it awfully early in the race to be making those kind of moves. Now he's diving in under him here. I don't think Alboreto thought he was coming for it. I don't think he even saw him coming.
Alboreto turned in for the apex, and lo and behold, there was Andy Wallace. Looks like the Ferrari is in good shape, but he is now back in 6th position.
Looks like the Ford's okay, and in actual fact, looks like the Ferrari was okay too. It didn't damage either car, just a little incidental contact which put him sideways. Probably got the temperature up on Alboreto right away here in this race.
Yeah, in the car as well as out, no doubt. Andy Wallace now beginning to shed bits of bodywork. There is Mauro Baldi, who did much of the development work of the Ferrari 333 SP for IMSA competition. Right now he's got Leitzinger coming up on his gearbox.
Butch Leitzinger's doing a very good job for the Dyson team this year. It's great to see the Dyson team running so well this year too. They've been in IMSA for so long and just been winning a few races, and this year having a chance at the championship is really great.
We should point out that the Dyson team really is a lone ranger in competition. They have done all of the development work on these Riley and Scott chassis and on the Ford V8 power plants as well, as opposed to the Ferrari factory supported by the Dallara engineering firm in Italy, who have done the bulk of the work on the Ferrari 333 SPs. And now you can see we're beginning to encounter lap traffic already.
Boy, that's fast. But this is a fast racetrack where you're going to see the speed differential being great. Oh, somebody's going very slow there. And they're side by side. This could be tight if that... we can't see if he got out of the way. He's parked at the edge of the road there. Couldn't tell who that was.
I believe that was Dan Pastorini's Porsche 911. That's a tough break for the former NFL quarterback and drag racer. This race is over really before it began. Now from far away, look at the speed on that 22-degree banking.
Yeah, it looks like the Ferrari's got a little top end on the Ford coming down the straightaway. But then when they get to the infield, it looks like it transferred back over, and the Dyson car has a little better handling.
Bumping down off the banking onto the road course. Just about anywhere we watch these combination oval and road courses in use, there's always that difference between the banking and the road course that provides a lot of bumpiness, very bad traction.
Yeah, and it's very tough. There's Dan Pastorini's car sitting at the side. Broken early. What a shame.
He's sharing that car with Sam Shalala from Sugar Land, Texas. And we have a yellow flag. I guess they'll go out and retrieve the Porsche.
Must be in a worse spot than we thought it would. It's hard to tell where it is from the photos.
The yellow flag is out. The safety car will collect race leader Andy Wallace and his Ford-powered Exxon World Sports Car. Mauro Baldi, Butch Leitzinger, Wayne Taylor in the Ferrari, and Michele Alboreto, our pole sitter, follow.
The competitive environment of high performance high-performance racing demands reliability. That's why the International Motorsports Association asked Exxon to formulate their official racing fuel. They knew that Exxon would create a high-performance fuel that exceeds the demands of grueling race conditions. And that same reliable performance can be found every time you fill up with Exxon 93 Supreme. Exxon. Rely on the Tiger.
In the middle of my workday, I don't do power lunches. I do power lifts. And when you work out this hard, you better use a deodorant that works hard too. That's why I use Speed Stick. It gives me 110% protection that lasts all day. And fortunately, all night. Because while I may not have time for lunches, I always manage to find some time for dinner.
Speed Stick, like you, it never quits. And try new Speed Stick Clear for clear protection that never quits.
5 minutes.
The amazing split-fire spark plug won a United States patent.
Does it really work? Is it that much better?
It's guaranteed. 5 extra horsepower by merely installing these plugs. You'll feel it work. Guaranteed. A 4.8% gain in mileage. You'll save because it works. Guaranteed. There's nothing like a split fire. You'll get more power and more mileage for your money back. You'll get more here, and you'll spend less here. Guaranteed.
This ESPN Speed World presentation, the Exxon World Sports Car Championship, is brought to you by Cytel, world-renowned for seismic expertise. By Exxon 93 Supreme Gasoline. For high performance, rely on the Tiger. And by Pirelli. Pirelli tires grip the road in ways you have never imagined, because power is nothing without control. You want power? You're sitting on it. You ride along with Jim Pace in an Oldsmobile-powered Spice chassis. Pace running 4th in the Drivers' Championship. After leading earlier this year, he's been hampered by the fact that he's driven basically a different chassis in every race. No season-long ride for Jim Pace. Now the green flag waves once again. We're back to racing. Andy Wallace leads Mauro Baldi, Butch Leitzinger, and reigning IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Champion Wayne Taylor.
And Wayne Taylor's got a good start this time. He should have a good run today. And it looks like Alboretto's right behind him, but doesn't seem to be able to make a move on him at all right at this time. This is awfully tight in section here. You know, you have to work awfully hard, and then you get a long break out in the banking where you're going. But, you know, you have to set up the cars so much different for a place like this. You can't make it good for the infield because you've got to make it a little stiffer for the banking so it won't bottom. And it makes the bumps even worse than you would normally have it.
This racetrack has been through different ownership over the years. At times it has fallen into disuse. It's been the subject of a lot of legal controversies in the last couple of years. But money has been invested to bring it up to championship standards. And for a time, Mario Andretti held the world closed course speed record, somewhere up around 234 miles an hour for a single lap, as I recall.
Yeah, fast track out there. And it's wide. You can have a lot of room to move around on the banking, but it looks like everybody runs single file there because the cars are so equal. A little bit of the speed advantage looks like it goes to the Ferrari, but they're very close.
Let me correct myself. I think it was Michael Andretti who set that lap here. I'm working from memory. I think it was Michael, though. Anyway, it was darn quick. Now you're watching the battle for second place as Butch Leitzinger challenges Mauro Baldi.
By the time they come out on the banking, he's ready to go up underneath him, but then Mauro's able to pull it out a little bit on the banking, and then Leitzinger closes it back up. Good race. They're having a good race here. The infield looks like it's very tough.
Interesting to know what kind of buffeting they're seeing up there, running in each other's slipstream on that 22-degree banking. Now Wayne Taylor goes underneath Butch Leitzinger, very close. This is for third.
That's that Ferrari advantage we're seeing on the banking coming up. But there goes the Ford under braking again. In the infield, very fast.
Great example of the kind of mechanical diversity you find in IMSA racing. Screaming 12-cylinder Ferrari against booming V8 Ford. And the Ford appears to have the advantage going into the corners. There's Wayne Taylor, the reigning champion. And there is a car stranded on the racetrack. Number 45 is Joe Wilson from Redwood City, California.
Doesn't look like a good place to be, right? Because those corners are tight enough when you don't have somebody to go around. It definitely makes it single file. And if Guys aren't looking far enough ahead. Boy, that could be really tough to get around.
He was going slower on the racetrack earlier in the race, and in fact, I don't even see a driver in the car. I wonder if he's already abandoned that machine. Nevertheless,
hard to tell. This is great, though. You know, when you have a cars that get to a track like this where there's an advantage to one car in one spot, an advantage to another car in another spot, it makes good racing, because the fact is that nobody has the advantage all the way around the racetrack. And I think that for a spectator's point of view, I like this kind of racing.
Now take a close look at number 3. He's lost the right end plate on that wing, and the rear bodywork appears to be bouncing around as well.
Well, that is amazing. You wonder how he lost it. We didn't see an accident in that car. He must have come in contact with something, though, because it's definitely missing. Boy, that car is still sitting there.
No corner workers within sight. I'm surprised we don't have a local yellow there at least to allow him to get that car moved. Meanwhile, Mauro Baldi runs around with a somewhat redesigned Ferrari 333 SP, and Butch Leitzinger is going to attack again. Now we have the yellow flag from IMSA flagman Jim Sidley, and we'll get that car moved to open up the racing line again.
You know, it's surprising that end plate isn't bothering him some on the racetrack, because normally that keeps the flow onto that rear wing more stable, and you get more downforce on the rear.
Meanwhile, Butch Leitzinger takes this opportunity to dive into the pits. Marty Reed is there.
Butch Leitzinger has brought the number 16 in for an unscheduled. I mean, this is a little bit early, guys, to see this car coming in here. Before the race, they were adjusting the clutch. Now they're taking a 4-tire change, topping off the fuel. You can see there looks to be some damage on the left front corner, as it looks like he had some contact out there for sure. Maybe that's the precaution.
And with a booming roar from that big Ford V8, Butch Leitzinger is back out once again in the Bosch Rain-X Redline Oil Ford Riley and Scott Mark III.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why they stop so early in the race like this. I wonder if he's having some sort of problem.
Well, I do know that the Dyson team uses one fueling rig for both cars, so they may have thought it was an opportunity to go in, get him topped up, and get at least one car out of the synchronization of pit stops that the leading car is going to need later in the race. We'll be back in a moment.
This fall on CBS.
Someone's at the door. Someone's at the door. Someone's at the door.
Nothing you've ever seen. Nothing you've ever imagined. Nothing you've ever known.
Too late for salvation.
Can prepare you for what's coming.
I know who you are! Someone's at the door. Someone's at the door.
American Gothic. This fall on CBS contains some violent scenes.
At the heart of the new Aurora is a powerful 32-valve dual overhead cam V8. It lets you drive 100,000 miles before your first tune-up. It lets you go up to 50 miles in the event of total coolant loss. And for anyone who wants to know how powerful it is, that was Texas you just drove through. It's your money.
Hi, I'm Tina. This is my baby. I feed her, nurture her, and I guide her. Believe me. At 130 miles an hour, when she starts to whine, I'm a real mother.
Welcome back to the Seitel Texas World Grand Prix. Bob Varsha and Elliott Forbes Robinson with you. We are just about to end our second yellow flag period of the race. Go back to green, and Andy Wallace will take his Ford to the front. Pressed hard by the Ferrari, the re-injured Ferrari, we should point out, right there at the top of your screen. That's Mauro Baldi, missing one end plate with loose bodywork on that car. He's showing a lot of confidence to push it as hard as he is.
It doesn't seem to be bothering him whatsoever, and it wasn't the car we saw hit, so it's still amazing to me how that ended up like that. But Taylor's all over his rear end, that's for sure.
Andy Wallace, an unabashed fan of the world sports car formula, Open cockpits, even in 93-degree heat here today in Texas. In fact, probably because of the heat here today, the drivers are glad to have these open cockpits.
But you know, on the other hand, they work so much on the cockpits to try and not get much turbulence in there, because when they first started to build the cars, it was actually shake your head so you couldn't even see where you were going, and now they've got it so the turbulence isn't much. It stays pretty warm inside these cars. Fortunately, though, the engines are in the back of the cars, and they try and get the heat from the radiators around the driver and exit behind them. But, boy, in this kind of heat they get in Texas, in this stadium, it's still plenty warm in those cars.
Good point. It is a stadium. It's a bowl-type layout that reduces the effect of the wind, particularly down here on the infield, and it gets plenty warm. Now challenging for second. It's a 3 Ferrari battle in second, third, and fourth. There is Wayne Taylor in the Momo, Danka, and Konica-sponsored Ferrari 333 SP. Taylor won that title a year ago, the inaugural Exxon World Sports Car Driving Champion, without winning a single race during the course of the year.
But he's changed that this year. Came back and won his World Sports Car Championship race earlier at Lime Rock this year. Did a heck of a race. Had a great race with James Weaver there.
James Weaver sits on the pit wall watching his team car right there going around leading this race. There are 2 Dyson Ford cars in the race. Weaver, as second in points, will climb into the better placed of the 2 cars, and the same goes for his championship rival Fermin Velez, watching 2 Ferraris run around. He'll have his pick of those, but not that one. That is Wayne Taylor and Dr. Giampiero Moretti's alone. Now let's go back to our Exxon Supreme GTS 1 category. There are the teammates, Darren Brassfield and Irv Hare. Johnny O'Connell runs in third in the Nissan 300ZX. Oldsmobile in this race with a shot at locking up the manufacturer's championship in GTS 1 if one of the Oldsmobile-powered cars in this race can win.
They've had a heck of a year this year, 2 of those Oldsmobiles. They've been running so strong. And both Brassfield and Hare have been doing an excellent job of driving them. The Nissan has had, you know, it's a good car, but they've had little things happen to them all year, even though they're very fast. They've had a tough year to go through, and with 1 car instead of the 2, with the accident happening to Millen at Atlanta, and Steve being knocked out for the year, it's been a very tough thing for them to do.
No question. A lot of little things and that one big thing, a huge crash that took former driving champion Steve Millen and put him in the hospital with a broken vertebra. We know Steve is probably looking in from his home in California. We wish you all the best and hope you get back soon, Steve. Whoop, now speaking of Oldsmobiles, there's Joe Wilson. We saw him going slower, and what's this? Eduardo Divos in a Ford Mustang has had what the engineers call a comprehensive air loss in that right front tire.
Yeah, it's a tough day. But you know, on a track like this where you get the high temperatures on the banking, where you're putting so much force on that tire, this kind of thing does happen. And oh, it's really a shame too, because it looks like it happened going right by the start finish line. He's at the pit exit, not at the pit entrance, so he has to go all the way around to get back there.
Peruvian driver, you bet, there he is on the pit out. Man, it must have been debris or something, because that one was sharp and total. And we have our 3rd yellow flag. The orange hanky has been plaguing us in the early laps of this race, and so the safety car will gather up the field. We'll be back for a green flag at the Seitel Texas World Grand Prix.
On civil litigation.
Unfortunately, in our legal system today, a courtroom battle is not only time-consuming and expensive, but it's extremely complex. Of course, with our years of experience, we can provide the legal expertise. But our firm is also dedicated to providing emotional support during a real tough period of time. Sure, lawsuits are never easy, but we'll be there to help you.
Davis & Curtis has the answers to your legal questions. Let us help you. Is back. That's right. Burge Motor Company is back with the same courteous sales staff specializing in extra clean, low mileage, quality used cars, low prices, low downs, low payments, with financing on the spot. The savings are fantastic with almost 100 cars priced between $3,000 and $5,000. Hurry in and find out why everyone is shopping the rest but buying from the best. Burge Motor Company with special service before and after the sale. Burge is back. 3101 Jacksboro Highway.
That negligee from the catalog came in.
Oh, Marge, it's so silky. Do you think we could use it to wipe the dust off the TV screen? It's time for ESPN's NFL Prime Monday!
I hate Mondays.
Welcome back to a warm, humid day in College Station, Texas. Bob Varsha and Elliott Forbes Robinson with you. There is Joe Wilson being towed back to the pits. Meanwhile, the number 6 machine is also back in the pits, and Marty Reed is there.
Eduardo Dibos brings the Mustang to a stop, and that right front has just shredded the whole body side of the fender, the hood. They are going to have some serious work here. It looks like the exhaust system is okay. They're checking the lines to make sure nothing else has been cut. It looks like it's okay. They're going to shut the motor off. This is going to take some time. He's going to be in here for a while. It's going to be a long stop for Dibos.
He'll be really lucky, you know, Bob, if he doesn't have a lot of stuff taken out. When you lose a tire at that kind of speed, it's amazing where that rubber will get to. It'll take out oil coolers, cooling ducts, exhaust systems, and if he can just put bodywork back on, he's going to be a really lucky guy.
Eduardo Dibos from Team Peru used to drive karts in South America against the likes of Roberto Guerrero. Experienced racing driver, and this form of IMSA racing is very popular down in Central and South America, particularly the production-based cars. There you see one of the Oldsmobiles and the Nissan of Johnny O'Connell and John Morton diving for the pit lane, trying to take advantage of this yellow flag to get service. Here's Marty in the Nissan pits.
Well, Johnny O'Connell is now into the pit. So is the number 4 Nissan further up. And this may be a little bit of a precautionary move as a result of the Dibos tire explosion. They're probably going to want to take a look just to make sure that they're not having a problem with the tires. And so far, what I see coming off, the Yokohama guys have nothing to worry about as far as tire wear. This car looks in great shape. Johnny O'Connell's refueled, a little bit of work still going on, and he is out of here. And the best news, guys, he's beating the 4 car. Here comes the 4 car right now.
If you don't think the pit crews are competing just as hard as the guys behind the wheel, there's proof otherwise.
Well, they were excited, weren't they? And that's a good stop for them to get in and out before the Oldsmobile got out. They're running so close here. The 3 cars have been, the 405 car and the 75 car have been running nose to tail here.
It's always seemed to have been that way in GTS1 competition. Here you see the driver standing. Zerv Hare with a slight lead over his teammate Darren Brassfield. Then the independently run Rob Morgan. Johnny O'Connell with the factory Nissan. Charles Morgan, Rob's father. And Roger Schramm in 6th. It is basically a 4-driver race for the championship.
Yeah, Rob Morgan having that great race at Mosport to come out and have the win, which he hadn't had before. And the other Oldsmobiles having a hard time up there, and Johnny O'Connell not having the Nissan there. It really worked out well for him, though. Great race.
Absolutely. Now there you see the safety car about to dive off the racetrack. Beautiful yellow Ferraris we're using this weekend. Speaking of Ferraris, Mauro Baldi has his bright red number 3 right up underneath Andy Wallace as they dive down into turn 1.
Boy, they're going at it again. And this should help Rich Leitzinger, too, because he'd had the early stop. They bunched them up again, so he should have been in a lot better shape to start out this time.
I think I see Butch Leitzinger running in about 6th position back there.
Boy, this guy's the hard part about getting going again like this after having the tires hot is how much buildup you're going to get on the tires during that slow period and how slick it's going to be for the first lap. It's caution periods aren't as easy as someone might think they are, because you have a lot of other things that can happen during your caution period.
Good look there down into the cockpit as Andy Wallace works his car around the banking. And that was a part of the thinking at IMSA behind generating this World Sports Car concept. An open cockpit allows the fans to watch the driver at work.
It's great. It goes back to a lot of the old racing. We were in coupes for so long, and before that we were in nothing but open cars. And I really like the open cars.
Recalls the old Can-Am days. Now here's Butch Leitzinger making a pass for 5th place.
Oh, he's moving up quite quickly, and he's on fresher tires than everybody else, and kind of out of sync also. And he could come right up and run with those front guys quite quickly.
There's Ross Bentley from Canada, just having given up 5th place. Paint Racing Oldsmobile-powered RNS Mark III, the same chassis that Butch Leitzinger is using, but with Oldsmobile V8 power instead of Ford.
I think that car has turned out to be a very good combination with the stock block V8 and the handling of the Riley Scott chassis. Coming back in and doing, after dominating in the GTS1 cars, the Trans Am cars, whatever, and then coming back and building a car for WSC, which is so good right off. Heck of a job by Riley and Scott.
In fact, the Riley and Scott factory in Indianapolis intends to run a factory car next year with Oldsmobile power. Now Michele Alboreto continues his battle with Wayne Taylor in an all-Ferrari matchup for third spot.
Yeah, he's been able to come up through the pack after that second lap. I guess it was Shunt that put him back a little bit. Just took his time, but they seem to be all running very evenly at this time.
Wayne Taylor in that Momo car did a lot of testing here at Texas World Speedway, and they say they think it's a Ferrari track, but the car works best way up in the rev range. We're talking about 11,000 RPM or so. So they enjoy it for that aspect. They're giving up a little bit to the big Ford grunt down on the infield, twisty bits, but up on the banking, those Ferraris just howl.
Boy, don't they make a great sound, too. When they're up at the full song in those engines, they just sound so great. There's nothing like a Ferrari motor.
Absolutely. Where would we be without Ferraris?
Doesn't look like Wayne's going to give up, though. He's going to just stay right on the back of Alboreto. And this is a lot of work making these things. The cars are so stiff that when you come across these transitions and bumps, it is a lot of work. And I just can't believe that it also on this banking isn't going to load your G-forces in these cars to where your neck is going to get very tired in this race if you drove it alone.
Absolutely. They've got to be pulling at least 2.5 or 3 Gs up there on the banking. And once again, that transition from the infield to the banking is very rough. You saw Alboreto's Ferrari take a big hop.
It does coming down. It's quite rough. The track actually hasn't been used a lot over the last few years, and I'm glad to see it being used again because it's a great facility, and but it's awful hot.
A Ford out front, then 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Ferraris running nose to tail. Whoa, we've got a Porsche. That's a GTS2 car down off the racetrack. Car 26. That's right, Charles Slater. Not only is in the running for the GTS2 Drivers' Championship, he is also the owner of the International Motorsports Association.
You think they should throw a caution for him and get him in there, wouldn't you?
Right. No doubt he's on the car phone right now, dialing one up. Now he wants to win his races clean, but right now he's got problems. Sharing with vastly experienced Canadian driver Richard Spinard today. They got a problem, but up front, things are looking good for Andy Wallace. It's a Ford over 3 Ferraris. We'll be back with more from Texas.
The competitive environment of high-performance racing demands reliability. That's why the International Motorsports Association asked Exxon to formulate their official racing fuel. They knew that Exxon would create a high-performance fuel that exceeds the demands of grueling race conditions. And that same reliable performance can be found every time you fill up with Exxon 93 Supreme. Exxon. Rely on the Tiger.
You can compare the Suzuki RF to a lot of things. Another motorcycle isn't one of them.
Working traffic at Texas World Speedway in the IMSA Seitel Texas World Grand Prix. Bob Varsha and world-renowned legend car constructor Elliott Forbes Robinson with you. We've got heavy traffic here. Andy Wallace leads in a Ford R&S Mark III, but right there behind him is Mauro Baldi. Then this battle for third, fourth, and fifth places. 2 Ferraris, and then Butch Leitzinger in his Dyson Ford.
Boy, Butch has really made up that difference coming up from that pit stop. The caution did help, but you know, those new tires must be just a little bit better on the track where you're generating a lot of temperature, because he's right on it now, and a good chance of going by if he's come up this fast.
In addition to mechanical diversity, we also have tire diversity out there. That Momo Ferrari for Wayne Taylor and the Ford for Butch Leitzinger are on Goodyear rubber. Just ahead, Pirelli shoes the Ferraris of the Scandia engineering team for Michele Alboreto, and up in second place, Mauro Baldi.
This is a great race. It's so tough to be in a slower car at a track like this, too, that's being lapped. Because you think, well, we'll just stay out of the way. But it's not as easy as you think, staying out of the way with this kind of closing speeds. Because you look up in the mirror, nothing's there. The next time you look up, you're cutting somebody off. It is so quick.
Whoops.
Oh, not the good line.
You bet it isn't. The pointy end goes forward, and the coach from television, Craig T. Nelson, has it going in the right direction again. Those colors look familiar. That was once the Bricks Racing Oldsmobile Spice, run by Frederick Ekblom and Jeremy Dale earlier in the season. Now it's Craig T. Nelson and Dan Clark. They were in 6th spot. Here comes our race leader, Andy Wallace, headed for the pits under a green flag.
I guess it's time to make the pit stop, and they want to stay out of sequence with their other car.
An enormous pit lane here at Texas World Speedway. So Marty Reed has been running up and down, getting a good workout, lots of mileage on those running shoes. Take it away, Marty.
Andy Wallace brings the lead car into the pits now. He's getting the standard 4-tire change. This is the first of the 5 cars that are on the front of this field that are now in for their pit stops. This one, they're not getting very good fuel mileage as if this is their plan, because we are just about 52 minutes in.
And with that, Mauro Baldi takes over the lead in the Ferrari. And you notice how long it took to fuel that car. They put an awful lot in.
Or it just took fuel slowly. It's amazing how long it took. You would have thought that they would be able to get fuel in quicker than that.
IMSA regulates the fuel flow, but that did seem to take an extraordinarily long time. Meanwhile, there is your new race leader, Mauro Baldi, in the Ferrari, who has not yet pitted, as Marty mentioned.
And we're going to wait and see. You know, it's very difficult in James Weaver's spot and Firma Velez's spot now of waiting to see what is the proper time to get in those cars and which is the car to get into.
There is the GTS1 leader, Darren Brassfield, second in driver points, hoping to pick up the overall manufacturer's championship for Oldsmobile in this race. His teammate, Irv Hare, has already pitted.
It looks like he's got a pretty good closing rate on some of the cars also. Couldn't even make up his mind which side he was going to go on there for a moment. But these cars have got to be hotter to drive than the WSC cars, because the fact is you've got the front engine, you've got all the radiators, everything up front. It heats up the firewall, the tunnel where the transmission is, and a lot of heat radiates in this car.
Now Michele Alboreto moving slowly down the pit lane, heads for the Ferrari pits, and Marty is there.
Well, we may find out if the mistake by the Dyson Racing team on the 20 car will come back to haunt them. So far, here is our second green flag stop. Michele Alboreto will stay in the Ferrari. He is keeping those R's up kind of high as the 4-tire change, and the tires look good. So other than that one incident where we had with the tire coming off on the explosion on the number 6 car, everybody else seems to be okay right now, waiting for the fuel. And remember, the fuel flow, it's easy for me to say, is the same on every single car, and they want to make sure they get all they can because they can now make it in 2 more stops.
It took a long time to get the fuel in that car too, so it must be the way the flow is metered, because it does seem like a long time getting the fuel in these cars.
That makes for lost positions on the racetrack. Now here comes race leader Mauro Baldi. Let's see if they go to work on the rear wing and the body work. He's been driving with it, and it hasn't slowed him down much. Once again, here's Marty.
Oh, it is such a long way to go to the pit out area as Mauro Baldi has to observe that speed limit. And there is a lot of grass and debris up into the intake of the air ducts in the front end, and they're going to have to clean that. A lot of rubber in up there, and there they go, getting that taken care of. The 4 tires are on. One very interested spectator, Fermin Velez. If this is the car that's going to be in the lead, this is the one he's going to take over. They're waiting for that full load of fuel to go in. They're taking a good close look at that rear wing also. They've decided to leave it alone. So again, he's back out and underway.
I think leaving it alone would be a great thing because it's running so darn good. He's leading the race, pulling away from everybody else. I think I'd leave it alone.
Well, Marty referred to a mistake by the Dyson team earlier. That would be the green flag pit stop, but the Ferrari team of Mauro Baldi and Michele Alboreto have chosen to go, ooh, Wayne Taylor all over the racetrack. He'll make a green flag stop as well. So the guy who I would think would benefit from all of this is Butch Leitzinger. He won't have to stop.
And he made his stop under the caution earlier, so it gives him a pretty good lead. It was a good move doing that caution stop earlier. It just depends on how it's going to work out later in the race when it comes down to the last pit stop.
Wayne Taylor will stay in the car, which is a little bit unusual. Normally, Giampiero Moretti has started the car.
Well, Wayne's gone some races all the way through this year.
He was talking about something on the right side. I think his radio had become unplugged. You saw a crewman reach in to reattach his helmet to the onboard radio.
When you're sitting there taking, and the fuel's going in, it takes so long, and you think it takes a half hour as a driver because your body is up to a speed that you've been running, and when you stop or slow down, it's so difficult.
Watching cars go by on the racetrack, there's a look at that enormous drag strip of a pit lane here in Texas World. The sheer scale of this place is daunting. The track just 1.9 miles around, but that's because we've chopped off half of the oval to add this road course. The spaces truly are wide open here in Texas. There is Butch Leitzinger, who now assumes the race lead. Just about to put a lap on the 30 car of Wayne Taylor. That, more than anything, tells you how important these pit stops are. We'll be right back to Texas.
Retirement? No problem. Our savings are socked away in CDs. And in 15 years, that money's going to be...
Putting all your retirement savings into CDs could leave you in an awkward position.
In its mother's arms. Yes, sir,
because over the long term, CDs alone may not earn enough interest for the kind of retirement you want. But if you get into a mix of investments with more risk, maybe including mutual funds, you could be in a better place. Bank One Securities Corporation can show you how.
I'm Ed McIlvain, president of Cool Temp Siding Company, and I have a business proposition for you. It's very simple. If you're going to put siding on your home this year, I want to do your job. I can personally guarantee you I will use the very best siding material on the American market. I will also promise you the best workmanship and job supervision in the industry. And most important, I guarantee if you make a deal with Cool Temp Siding Company, you will get your money's worth.
Gant, who homered his last time.
This guy Gant's amazing. Atlanta thinks he's washed up. They throw him out in the street where he says butt off, signs with Cincinnati, and he turns them into winners.
And now he's coming back after Atlanta.
It's almost like a movie.
Yeah.
Who do you think they get to play Gant?
Stallone. What?
When's the last time you had your eyes checked?
So Stallone's a little short. Maybe they can put lifts in his shoes or something.
Yeah, and they ought to tighten the bolts in your neck, too.
Back at Texas World Speedway, there you see Dan Pastorini, who's been having problems all day in that number 58 Porsche, talking with Exxon Supreme GT Technical Administrator Tom Siebold. Meanwhile, our leader is in the pits, and here's Marty.
Remember that blown opportunity before on the number 20 car, but remember also that under the first yellow, this was the car that came in, the only one, and now the 16 car is going to be the beneficiary as they are going to be able to pit here under yellow and take on a full load of fuel, 4 fresh tires, and get back underway. Some tape going on that left front where there was the contact. Looks like that's going to be taken care of with about 5 strips of tape, and he'll be ready to go. Again, they're waiting for the fuel. Now, there is some fuel leaking out at the very base of the device that puts it into the car, and he's underway, and
little bit of a stutter there as Butch Leitzinger gets back out on the racetrack. There you see the Pastorini car parked at the end of the pit wall.
Well, it looks like it's really worked out well for Butch Leitzinger, though. I mean, he's going to keep the lead, and the laps are so fast here that a couple of cars are going to have trouble even staying on the same lap with him at this point. But very opportunistic for him.
There's Bill Auberlin, a young California driver who runs his own team. He is the pole sitter in the GTS2 category today. He has won most of the poles in that class this year.
He's been running very well, too, and racing with the Porsches very hard with his Mazda.
No question about it. He has also done some open wheel racing in the Toyota Atlantic Series. Very, very capable young driver. Now there is a new nose standing by for one of the Dyson cars. Let's get back to Marty.
So now the team has brought the number 20 car in with Andy Wallace at the wheel, and you can see that the nose piece is going to be changed. The damage from the contact on the left front has made that aerodynamically, shall we say, not very sound. And they'll go ahead and take care of the wheels, change all 4 tires, top this car off. Remember, it had come in under the green. This is the car that they made the tactical error with, but they would have had to stop again. So that's why they went ahead and brought it in now. They can still make it in 2 more stops after this one. So all they're going to be is at the back of the pack. They're going to lose the track position, but at least they'll still be able to go longer than the Scandia Ferraris right now, because remember, the Ferraris pitted under green.
Interesting to note the way the front end changes on that car. The splitter remains on the chassis, and they just take off the bodywork above the wheels and the headlights.
It looks like they expect it to go on a little faster than this, too. It doesn't seem to be matching up like it should be today. Well, that's a tough break. It's amazing. It went a long time before it actually came completely apart after that accident on the second lap. But boy, they're really having some trouble. It doesn't look like it's matching up. They have a good chance. Here comes the field. They could go a lap down now.
Notice this one does not have a number on the front of it. I wonder if they had one generic nose piece for the 2 cars that maybe fits the 16 car a lot better than it does this, the number 20 chassis. Meanwhile, the field is coming by, and Marty Reed wants back in. What have you got, Marty?
Guys, just to give you an update, they're having trouble getting this nose piece on, and they would have been able to get out before the wave by. They would have had much better track position. Right now, they are in jeopardy of possibly going a lap down if they don't hurry up. The lap vehicles are going by us at this moment. We're waiting to see where the pace car is, and these guys are working feverishly to get this nose piece to fasten it. It's been the right front fastener that has been bad, and there is the pace car, and the red flag is out, and the 20 car is going to go a lap down.
Well, that is a tough break for Andy Wallace, who can take his time getting back out now because he'll be stopped at the end of the pit lane. And it looked a little shaky there at the end of the stop. I hope they've got that nose piece on firmly. Andy Wallace back out front. We'll be back for more of the Seitel Texas World Grand Prix.
No trendy health club. No $60 shorts. No bull. Speed Stick's no-nonsense formula gives you 110% protection. Like you, it never quits.
A big 1-2 cleaning punch by Eureka. Corded Super Broom. Real suction power for quick pickups everywhere. Or Cordless Boss Light for bare floors and powered brush roll for carpets. Corded Super Broom. Cordless Boss Light. Stick brooms at prices you won't believe. From Eureka.
When traffic congestion changes, the threats to your car's engine change. That's why Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that senses the changing threats in your engine and adapts its own molecular structure for continuous protection. So whenever the driving conditions change, so does Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life.
Now get up to $6.60 back by mail when you buy a case of Quaker State, or up to $2.75 back by mail when you buy 5 quarts.
The Heels are looking for a W and wheel into Louisville for a crack at the stacked cards. The North Carolina Tar Heels versus the Louisville Cardinals. Thursday at 8, only on ESPN.
Welcome back to a bright sunny day at College Station, Texas, home of Texas A&M University and the Texas World Speedway, site of today's IMSA Exxon World Sports Car and Exxon Supreme GT event. The green flag waves, and we are racing once again. Butch Leitzinger takes his Ford out front, followed by a gaggle of Ferraris, Oldsmobile-powered Spices, and other World Sports Car examples.
That was with the pit stops coming in. Don't have the leaders up front, so they're having to get through that traffic. And boy, sure let Leitzinger get out a great start here and pull away, which is nice feeling when you get to a restart to get out and get a jump on everybody so you can relax a little bit while they're all working very hard in traffic.
Butch Leitzinger made a yellow flag pit stop early in the race. Everyone else gambled that there wouldn't be one for a while. They all wound up having to pit under green, and as a result, Leitzinger is well up on the rest of the field.
Great when a plan comes together.
Absolutely.
car seems to be running very, very well. And in talking to James, says this car is one of the nicest, easiest cars to drive he's ever driven. He says it's really a pleasure to drive. It's not difficult, high steering effort, anything. He really likes the car. Maybe when he gets into it later on in the race, he'll still like it, but it's going to be very tough to see what's going to happen. If both cars are running well, it's going to be tough to figure out which car you want to get into.
Speaking of two cars running well, this is in the GTS1 category. Fighting for second place, Johnny O'Connell, who just got the benefit of traffic right there, putting that lapped car between himself and driving championship points leader Irv Hare.
Yeah, that was a great move by Johnny. He really got that car put between him at just the right time. Boy, there's some traffic out there. It looks like it's just single file and you can't do anything about it. You just got to follow that car until you get out of that area.
I was about to make that point. The oval itself is so wide open, but these twisty bits on the infield are very narrow, very difficult to pass. Now Irv Hare has a clean shot at him, but as you can see, he's about 15 car lengths behind.
Yeah, Johnny was able to use that little bit of traffic. It looks like he may be able to use some more coming up here, but put it between them, and that really made a big difference here.
Now just to the right at the bottom of your screen, you got a quick look there at Darren Brassfield. Here he comes, not the red, white, and blue car, but the one behind it. That's Brassfield, the leader in the GTS1 category. There is O'Connell, and there is Irv Hare.
These cars are really staying close. That's great racing. I mean, it's been quite a way into this race, almost halfway, and they're still running nose to tail the top three cars.
In fact, that car running out in front of Darren Brassfield is the privately entered Oldsmobile entered for Charles and Rob Morgan. Now to the GTS2 category. Bill Auberlen to the left of your screen in the blue, white, and day-glow orange Mazda leads away.
That's great racing. These GTS2 cars, which you don't see as much as you would like to because of the fact they're back in the field, but they have an excellent race, and the cars are actually very quick and very good cars, and you just don't see them. Oh my gosh, Wallace had a problem.
Lots of dust and smoke in the air as well. It doesn't look like he hurt the car, but he may have flat spotted those tires.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything's wrong at all with the car. It's amazing. You would have thought that with the spin, somebody would have hit him, or a car would have hit him, one of the slow cars.
Let's take another look. That's Wallace on the left, and that's Michele Alboreto in the number 33 Ferrari. Remember, they got together at the beginning of the race. Wallace just gave Michele another taste of American-style IMSA sports car racing.
But it didn't look like it got him backwards or anything like that. And it looks like they're coming up close here. Nope, they missed again. But no, Alberto's right in the back of him now, pushed him down the track, pushed him off the track, into the dirt, through the... My!
Ooh,
and Taylor had to miss him.
That's right, Wayne Taylor is right in the middle of that. You see other cars going around. A little bit of Italian temper, perhaps, from Michele Alboreto.
Incredible. But it looks like the car's okay now. He's driving along and can't see any damage to the car.
Keep in mind, he is a lap down after the field was waved by the safety car while Andy Wallace was having the nose changed in the pits. And this hasn't helped him at all, as you see Mauro Baldi coming up from behind to put him another lap down. Meanwhile, up on the banking, there is the overall race leader, Butch Leitzinger, going around the GTS2 category leader, Bill Auberlen. I'm going to wait and see. I'll be surprised if there's not a black flag for Michele Alboreto.
Well, after what happened at Mosport with Mauro Baldi, you think something might happen here.
Here's a look at the leaderboard. Irv Hare has moved to the front of the GTS1 class, and he runs 5th overall. We'll be back to Texas World Speedway in a moment.
So boring.
Well, so how many high school boys does it take to change a light bulb?
What a light up your life? Yeah! Never those Slim Jim! Turn to the spice! Baby, juice is nice! Need a little excitement? Snap it to a Slim Jim!
There you are, driving along, minding your own business. Watch it. Hey, stuff happens. Call CarStar. They're friendly, quality collision repair people. They're good. How good? 5-year nationwide warranty good. They'll have you out of there looking good as new. Come back and see us. Just kidding. CarStar, where America goes for quality collision repair.
Time management entails prioritizing, synergizing, reorganizing,
Earth to business guru, this is difficult. Well, at least Office Max, the office product superstore, is easy. Over 6,000 office products, including quality brand names like Ampad or Bic. At guaranteed low prices that won't make that vein on your accountant's forehead bulge. Free delivery, too. Talk about time management. Office Max, we go to the max for you.
Back at Texas World Speedway, picking up the action in the Exxon Supreme GTS 2 category. There is Bill Auberland from California, the pole sitter in the race. There is Jorge Trejo sharing his car with Joe Vardy, and those two are locked in IMSA history. Vardy's pass on Jack Lewis on the last lap of the Mossport race this year clinched a $10,000 bonus for his co-driver Jorge Trejo's, the SO Canadian Cup.
He's in a heck of a battle now with the Mazda. You know, they're running very close again, and I think that with the closeness of the racing in this class and the reliability of the cars in this class, I think we can look forward to seeing some good racing later on in this race.
There they are, 1 and 2 in GTS2. Running third in the category is the number 99 Porsche, being shared by Larry Schumacher and Andy Pilgrim.
Boy, it's got to feel slow driving a GTS2 car around that banking with the other guys doing 200 miles an hour, probably some 30 miles an hour faster than they're going in these cars. That's when you hope for a wide banking instead of having a nice narrow little track. Because in the infield, in actual fact, they're not a whole lot slower than the Class 1 cars. But on the banking, it's a substantial amount.
This looks like the Bricks Racing Oldsmobile crew on the pit wall, ready for their man. It's Irv Hare, and here's Marty Reed.
So, second place, Irv Hare brings it in for what should be his next to last pit stop. We are past the halfway point, and we should tell you that both R.K. Smith and Bryce Cobb are still here standing by in case either driver needs relief from the heat. But we can also tell you that the nice cloud cover has just come over. I don't know how cool it is in the cockpit, but it's a little bit better out here than it was just 5 minutes ago. Got some hot brakes over on the right front. It's holding them up, getting that right front tire put on. Now they got that taken care of. It is now on. And they're finishing up the fuel, and Irv Hare will be back out of here.
Meanwhile, Johnny O'Connell in the Nissan has taken over the class lead. You see him forcing what appears to be some coolant into the radiator of that car.
Yeah, I guess the engine must be running hot as well as the brakes, and they're just adding a little coolant to it. And it's not a surprise that a hot track like this Texas track on a day like today, where we're getting, looks like our 2 leaders are running together here now.
That's right. There's Johnny O'Connell in the red, white, and blue Clayton Cunningham Racing Nissan 300ZX being passed by overall race leader and leader in the World Sports Car category, Butch Leitzinger.
You can see the different closing speeds of cars. You have GTS1, GTS2, and WSC car all running together. Those 2 cars are very similar in speed, though.
The GTS1 cars are full-on race cars. They use a lot of aluminum honeycomb, Kevlar, and carbon fiber in their construction. And in a straight line, that is, they are just about on a par with the World Sports Cars.
Well, they are, because you don't have the ground effects, you don't have the wings, all the drag that makes these cars stick to the ground so well isn't on those cars. Therefore, the horsepower translates to the straight line speed rather than downforce.
Get a good look right there at that sort of Cyclops center-mounted headlight on Butch Leitzinger's car. That is not a decoration or vanity. Those headlights were mandated by IMSA after the rash of crashes at Road Atlanta earlier this year. The production-based cars wear decals fore and aft that indicate whether they are GTS1 or GTS2 category machines, so that the drivers can judge at a moment what his closing speed is likely to be. Good example right there as Leitzinger goes around the Trejos Vardy Porsche.
And you can see those are the fastest GTS2 cars and drive around them so easily. I bet the guys are starting to get tired now, too. You know, on a hot day like today, and the banking, and the work you're having to do, how many laps, it's going to get really wear you out as this race goes on. They're going to be waiting for this next stop now because they're getting late enough in the race where they're going to start changing drivers.
As Marty Reed mentioned, there are relief drivers standing by in the Bricks Racing Oldsmobile pits and elsewhere as well. Now, there's Andy Wallace running back in 8th place, a lap down. He was forced to pit under green, and then he had to come in and get the nose changed, and then he took a little off-course excursion courtesy of a bulldozer job from Michele Alboreto.
Looks like he's coming back up on Alboreto now, so it'll be interesting to see if he just can go by or whether he has to let him know he's going by.
Well, we'll all keep our eyes closed and hold our breath. We'll take a timeout and return to the Texas World Speedway in just a moment. Butch Leitzinger is out front over Taylor and Alboreto.
During development, the new Aurora's V8 engine raced the equivalent distance of 31 Indy 500s back-to-back. It also broke 47 speed endurance records, 2 of which had been set by Mercedes. And along the way, it hit a top speed of 3,500 miles per hour. My mistake. That was the Air Force's Aurora. Our version has never been clocked above Mach 5. It's your money.
Now, an oil made just for your hard-working engine. 4x4 from Quaker State. Off-roading, extreme temperatures, towing and hauling. They all make your light truck or 4x4 work extra hard and could shorten its life. Why settle for a conventional car oil? Get 4x4 from Quaker State. The intelligent oil for hard-working engines.
Now, take home a legend. Get an authentic autographed Superstar lithograph, a $30 value, just $7.50. See details on cases of 4x4 at your local supplier.
Speed World presentation of the IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Championship is brought to you by Oldsmobile and your local Oldsmobile retailers. By Exxon 93 Supreme Gasoline. For high performance, rely on the Tiger. And by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. With the mercury bubbling in the low 90s, welcome back to Texas World Speedway. Bob Varsha, Elliott Forbes Robinson, and Marty Reed with you as race leader Butch Leitzinger goes underneath Jim Pace from Mississippi in the Apple computer-sponsored Oldsmobile Spice.
You know, it's kind of a surprise, Bob, that we haven't had more cars with overheating, tire problems, something at this track, because the fact is it's banking where you hold wide open for so long, the tires are being abused so badly by the banking, and yet we've had hardly any trouble at all with that kind of stuff.
There's a good look at Jim Pace, running in 5th right now, 4th in the Drivers' Championship. He had an excellent first half of the season, despite the fact that he had no steady ride. At one point, he led the Drivers' Championship with about 4 different teams on his pallet.
At the beginning of the year, the Dyson cars weren't doing very well at all, and then they've come back on a tear in the last 3 races. Whoa, is that tight getting up there on the top of that banking?
Once again, he's going by the Lee Payne Ross Bentley Oldsmobile powered R&S Mark III chassis, identical to the one that the Dyson team is using. But it appears that the Ford powered chassis has the legs on the Oldsmobile powered machine.
I think they've got that Dyson car running very well at this time. Both handling and the horsepower they're getting is just running extremely well.
Here comes Wayne Taylor, the reigning drivers champion, in the 2nd place Momo Danka Konica Ferrari 333 SP.
A little bit of tape there hanging off the front of the car where they've repaired it. I wonder what kind of damage they've got to that fender, because we didn't see the accident, but they seem to be worried about it slightly and putting tape on it.
Johnny O'Connell in the Nissan leading the GTS1 category, trying to prevent Oldsmobile from winning the manufacturer's title at this race.
I'm glad to see they got that Nissan running again very well and running ahead of the Oldsmobile. They've had, like I said, they've had trouble. They missed Mossport to get the car ready for this race, and it looks like they've got it running well.
It was absolutely the car to have when it was a turbocharged V6 powered machine. But this year, turbocharging was banned from the Exxon Supreme Series. The Nissan guys decided they wanted to stay in the game, so they developed a V8. And they ran well with it, but they've had some mechanical problems that have struck Well, there's never a good time for a mechanical problem, I suppose, but they've had it at all the worst times.
Well, it's hard to change over to a different engine, a different program for a following year, and that Nissan V6 is a great motor, and the car sounds so funny with the V8 actually in the car.
As Michele Alboreto brings his Ferrari in, keep in mind Fermin Velez has a decision to make whether to take over this car or the number 3 machine that is only slightly better placed. Alboreto with another slow pit entry. The crew goes to work. Here's Marty Reed.
A little bit early for Michele Alboreto to be coming into the pits. Take a look at the front nose section, the damage there. And obviously some grass and debris up in there, and they'll have to clean that out. Tire gets loose from the right rear. That could slow down the change a little bit, but remember, the fuel takes so long to get in that should be taken care of as long as he doesn't cross-thread. The car is down and the lug is not on. Now it is. Alboreto stays in, and we're just waiting for the fuel.
And to take the pieces of Andy Wallace from the nose section of that car. Thanks, Marty. Michele Alboreto back out, so Fermin Velez, I would guess, is go. Oh, carefully, boys.
That was close. I didn't see him coming. He was down on the low line.
That was Andy Wallace again, I do believe.
Going to be a real test of that nose.
Best 2 out of 3 falls between Wallace and Alboreto. Fermin Velez, as I was saying, will apparently take over the number 3 car when Mauro Baldi brings it in. Meanwhile, here's Butch Leitzinger in the number 16 Dyson Racing Ford. I would guess that is the car. In fact, I'm just about certain that that is the car into which James Weaver will climb.
Well, it seems like with these 2 cars running up front together, well, actually, the 3 car, not the Wayne Taylor coming up, but these cars running up front, those are the cars the guys are going to get in. And that is the regular car for James, so he'd be most comfortable in that car anyway, I would think.
Ooh, close moment there with a slower car for Wayne Taylor. Now, we don't know what the drivers are discussing over the radio with their pits. For all we know, a car might be well placed, but might not be mechanically perfect. So the driver on the wall, trying to preserve those all-important championship points, might not take the better placed car. We just won't know until he does it.
Wayne Taylor's having a very good run today, too, in the car. Looked like he was a little bit slow on everyone at the start, but he's just kept the pace up and gone very well, and is sitting in a really good spot right now.
Originally from South Africa, made his way to Europe for Group C sports car racing, and then to America to join the IMSA series. Now lives in the Orlando, Florida area with his wife and 2 young children.
Boy, that line, watching them come down into that pit lane, if the guy in the pit isn't watching, you can get together very easily like we almost saw.
There's a real jawbreaker coming off onto the infield section. Leitzinger over Taylor, and we'll be right back.
Now, an oil made just for your hard-working engine. 4x4 from Quaker State. Off-roading, extreme temperatures, towing and hauling. They all make your light truck or 4x4 work extra hard and could shorten its life. Why settle for a conventional car oil? Get 4x4 from Quaker State. The intelligent oil for hard-working engines.
Now, take home a legend. Get an authentic autographed Superstar lithograph. A $30 value, just $7.50. See details on cases of 4x4 at your local supplier.
Job got you down.
Meet the staff of Empire Records.
Help me.
Some people think of them as wastoids.
That's a good thing, right?
Romantics.
I love you.
Headbangers.
You get smarter the shorter your skirt gets.
And dreamers. They think of themselves as family.
That is so sweet. I think I'm gonna barf.
Empire Records, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, September 22nd in a theater near you.
Go anywhere to get your windows tinted, but don't you think it'd be a good idea to have it done by the people who use the Lumar brand, the best quality tinting material available? The people who will give you a written nationwide lifetime warranty? The people who've been in business for about 50 years? If you agree with what I've said and you want to protect the interior of your vehicle and to make it cooler in the summer, then come to Longhorn Trailer and Body and let them do the job for you. 1141 Shepherd Access Road, Wichita Falls.
It was a wild one. The Angels catcher must have locked 2 or 3 miles behind the plate just trying to catch Lee Smith. He was airmailing him all over the map. Hey, Lee, I think you could learn to harness that wild stuff if you just set up that screaming fastball with an occasional curve. There's
Lee Smith, the banker, will deduct even bigger savings. Fly out, get a toaster. Strike out, get a free blend.
Welcome back to Texas World Speedway in the IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Championship Seitel Texas World Grand Prix. Race leader Butch Leitzinger has just run out of the picture. Now Wayne Taylor, there is Butch. Wayne Taylor's got himself locked behind the slower GTS 1 car of the Morgan family, Charles and Rob. Thus far, everything has gone Butch Leitzinger's way. He's had some hard luck thus far this season, but today he got out there in good shape from the 5th starting position, pitted under the first of a series of yellow flags, got a lap up on the field. Everyone else had to pit under green, and Butch Leitzinger has simply sailed from there. Now, here comes Mauro Baldi, and I anticipate we'll see Fermin Velez, the points leader. There is Velez waiting to get into the car. This should be an interesting driver change. Here's Marty.
So Mauro Baldi has done his job. He has brought the Ferrari in for Fermin Velez to take over. Remember that winglet on the right rear is still missing. It's making the car a little ill handling, but Fermin and the team thinks this is their best shot to score points and to take the victory. Driver change continues. We're waiting to see if the 16 car is going to be pitting right behind him. Out, and the motor has gone dead. Hopefully it'll be able to refire, and it does. All tires have been changed. The fuel is out. They're waiting and getting Fermin in. He's not buckled in quite tight enough. This is getting longer and longer.
Two important points there from Marty Reed. Number one, the tires are cold. There are no expansive electronic tire warmers in IMSA World Sports Car Competition. And it did take a long time to get those belt tightened. Fermin Velez goes about 5'6", 5'7" in height. As you watch Johnny O'Connell bring in the GTS 1 class leading Nissan. So Fermin Velez had to pop that big seat bolster into the car to bring him forward so he could reach the pedals. And of course they had to loosen the belts a great deal in order to get him into the car, and that means you have to tighten them up a great deal as well. Now the engine bonnet or hood is off of the GTS 1 class leader.
It's hard to tell what they're doing at the moment, doesn't it, Bob? It just...
They're moving slowly around it. Now you're getting water from the front. I wonder if he's overheating.
Well, they're pouring a lot of water on it. You can see the high-pressure water they're spraying on it, too, and it looks like there's something coming out the bottom at high velocity. Oh, boy, that looks like trouble. He's been running so good, you hate to see something like this happen, but it looks like they have overheated at this time.
And here comes the new leader, Darren Brassfield, who flashes across the start-finish line past Johnny O'Connell in the pits. He now takes over the lead on the infield.
Boy, it's going to be a long day. There's still a lot of time to go in this race, and to have the car overheating already, it looks like it's going to be a really tough day to keep that car running for the rest of the day.
Well, this provides a boost to the Bricks Racing Oldsmobile pits. They now are in line to clinch the Manufacturers Championship for Oldsmobile with a victory here today. Using the Aurora V8 has become pretty much the corporate racing block for General Motors, at least for the Oldsmobile division. Now here comes Johnny O'Connell. Remains to be seen whether they've got that overheating problem licked.
It didn't look like they were able to get, well, we didn't see them put any more fluid in the radiator. It looked like they were losing a lot. Just the cooling it down won't do enough there, so it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Looks like we've got to fight for the lead here now, too.
Wayne Taylor all over Butch Leitzinger. So either Taylor has speeded up remarkably or Leitzinger. Keep in mind, he made that early pit stop under the caution, so those tires are probably beginning to get a little threadbare.
Yeah, he's probably been out longer than anybody else at this particular time. And it is getting close to that time when they'd be making the pit stops. We expect to see James Weaver getting in before too long. Look at the different lines on the banking, too. Normally that upper line will keep the tires a little bit cooler, but the Ferrari's going in the pit, so it's Wayne Taylor's turn to come in. And Butch Leitzinger's signaling to the pits like he's coming in the next lap. He was waving as he went by.
Wayne Taylor brings the Danka, Konica, Momo-sponsored Ferrari in. Beautiful paint job on this car. Giampiero Moretti has always had great-looking cars.
Oh, he has. He's had pretty cars. It doesn't look like Giampiero is standing around to get in the car either. It looks like Wayne's going to stay in the car.
Wayne Taylor may be going solo here.
Well, he's doing a heck of a job so far, and but it seems like it's going to be an awfully hot day to be staying in the car for that many hours. And if he does, he's going to do one heck of a job. He's going to work and earn his money today.
Kevin Durand runs the crew for Wayne Taylor and Dr. Giampiero Moretti. He has an interesting garage full of vehicles. Not only does he maintain this exotic Ferrari 333 SP, he also has his own NASCAR super truck that he has built for competition in NASCAR's newest oval track series. Wayne Taylor brings the Ferrari back out.
Now it looks like they're trouble-free and a pretty good stop for him. Now we get to see probably James Weaver getting into the Ford here for Dyson's car.
Well, unlike Fermin Velez, who had his choice of cars, the die was cast for James Weaver when the 20 car with Andy Wallace went down a lap. He is now replacing Butch Leitzinger in the lead, fourth, with the guys going to work and doing a fine job so far. Front end is all taken care of. All 4 tires are done. Fuel going in. And the hardest part in these things sometimes is the belts. We saw with Fermin Velez's stop, he was having some trouble. But it looks like things are going pretty well for James Weaver. It's going to be the fuel that's going to be the very last thing to go in. The Riley and Scott Ford, the race leader. It's come down to a shootout now between the men first and second in the pool.
Well, it's a good stop, but they look like they're getting a lot of trouble getting going. James is having trouble getting going there. I hope that's not a problem for James.
Slipping the clutch as he goes back out. And he's looking down in the cockpit. I wonder if he's got those belts snugged up the way he wants them.
I don't know. It doesn't look like he's up to speed either. It looks like he's going slowly.
Meanwhile, Johnny O'Connell has problems.
Yeah, still overheating. They're throwing water at every place they can, trying to get it cooled down. But I still don't see him trying to add more fluid to it yet, trying to get more fluid into the car.
That is
a bag of ice.
The most direct way to cool it down. Throw a bag of ice in there. The pit-side Coca-Colas are going to have to stay warm the rest of the afternoon there. Here's Marty.
This is unbelievable. John Paul Jr. is in to make the driver change with Andy Weaver, but look further up pit lane. The 16 car, the lead car, James Weaver, is creeping down the pit lane. The crew is running up to get to him and to pull him in to find out what is wrong. Oh, the Drivers' Championship could have been decided right here. With only 2 more races left, James Weaver needed desperately to cut in too. And now the 33 Ferrari is coming in. We have got 3 cars in the pits at once. They're penalizing the crew of Dyson Racing on the John Paul Jr. stop. Too many men over the wall. That's a 10-second penalty. Now the report on the 33 car, as we're watching the 2 Dyson machines, is that Michele Alboreto is experiencing a vibration. We'll get more on that. The big question mark is what happened to race leader James Weaver.
So, all of a sudden, our leaderboard is getting shaken up. Michele Alboreto having a vibration, no doubt from spending too much time bouncing off of that car, now being driven by John Paul Jr. There you see the Ferrari making its way back out, and there is James Weaver. My. Bad luck once again for the Englishman, who has been the mainstay of this Dyson team over the years. Let's see what Marty's been able to learn.
All right, the crew is going to work, and you can see they brought out another alternator. They're going to change the alternator. The car lost all power. James was lucky enough to get it back into pit lane, but obviously his chances of winning this race are gone. And the question mark will be now what happens with Fermin Velez in the number 3 Ferrari.
Boy, that's the tough part about making a choice on cars, is they didn't get a full lap in, the car quits on him. And the other car looks like it's still running great.
There is your new leader, Wayne Taylor, running out front. Darren Brassfield has also been in and out of the pits. That puts Irv Hare up into the GTS1 lead.
The next revolution in tires.
The competitive environment of high-performance racing demands reliability. That's why the International Motor Sports Association asked Exxon to formulate their official racing fuel. They knew that Exxon would create a high-performance fuel that exceeds the demands of grueling race conditions. And that same reliable performance can be found every time you fill up with Exxon 93 Supreme. Exxon. Rely on the Tiger.
Want to make painting easier? Change your roller to a Wagner cordless power roller. There's less mess, less hassle, and less bending over because you control the flow of paint. So you can just keep on rolling. In fact, with the power roller and its accessories, you'll get professional results nearly twice as fast. It even turns cleanup into an easy job. So get a cordless power roller from Wagner and transform every room in your house.
Andre, without question, has the best return to serve in the game. He's a tough guy to ace.
Back at Texas World Speedway, where Wayne Taylor, the reigning Exxon World Sports Car Driving Champion, is out front in a race that has already produced more than its share of twists and turns. Taylor is going to drive that car solo, it would appear. I don't believe he needs another pit stop. Meanwhile, Marty Reed has a story from the pits.
I guess the big question I want to ask you is, how did that car handle with that winglet on the right rear off?
You know, we have oversteer in every right-hander. In every right-hander, I cannot put down the power properly like we were using during the qualifying. But I mean, to drive around and I was doing it in any case. I was lapping 57s, 58. So this is the pace to win the race in any case. And the fuel consumption is quite good.
Oh, Morrow, I hate to interrupt you, but the number 3 car has just come in unexpectedly. This is a total surprise. Fermin Velez has brought the car in, and it does not sound good, and the motor has been turned off. And there is problems. This, oh, so dramatic, as we have just seen the 16 car have problems. Now, Fermin Velez is having problems as well. So the points championship is not over yet.
Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I guess. First, our points runner-up, James Taylor, had problems, as Marty said. Now our points leader is in, and it appears he will not be able to take advantage of Weaver's absence. There are the 2 points leaders parked in the pits.
And can you believe it? They both had 2 cars to choose from, and both cars went out right as they got in the cars. You know, it's a hard choice to make, but it's just interesting that it happens this way. Who'd have believed it?
Absolutely. Meanwhile, on his merry way with no visible sign of problems, Wayne Taylor.
Wayne Taylor now is sitting out in front with a pretty good lead. 33's made an extra pit stop. 20 was penalized in the pits when he came in. And Wayne Taylor's had actually a pretty smooth day.
It does not appear at this juncture, at least, that Wayne Taylor will be able to defend his driver's championship this year. Rough first half of the season, aside from that victory at Lime Rock, left him with very few points. If he can win this race today, depending on how other people finish, he will be 5th in the Drivers' Championship with just 2 races remaining.
He's taking his time and being careful, and even coming up behind the GTS 2 car, he didn't try and pass him until he got on the banking. He's taking his time. He's got a good lead, and here's your Irv Hare is now the leader in the GTS 1, getting by Brassfield.
With that Aurora V8 powered Oldsmobile.
What a nice running car. Good sounding car too with the V8, and has run so well everywhere. Looks good on the track, but looks like Irv's having another excellent day today.
34 career victories in IMSA competition for the man from Peoria, Illinois. Part of a family-run operation for many, many years. His brother Scott races as well.
Now it's just a matter of just he and his partner, and another yellow out today.
Officially, this is for debris on the racetrack, which all in all is not surprising considering the amount of contact we've seen here today. There's our Ferrari safety car waving the slower cars by while it looks for the Momo Ferrari of race leader Wayne Taylor. So we have time for another timeout. And look what's happened to our leaderboard. Taylor and Alboreto, then the GTS1 car of Irv Hare, and Darren Brassfield is also up in the top 5.
In the middle of my workday, I don't do power lunches. I do power lifts. And when you work out this hard, better use a deodorant that works hard too. That's why I use Speed Stick. It gives me 110% protection that lasts all day. And fortunately, all night. Because while I may not have time for lunches, I always manage to find some time for dinner.
Speed Stick, like you, it never quits. And try new Speed Stick Clear for clear protection that never quits.
5 minutes. When traffic congestion changes, the threats to your car's engine change. That's why Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that senses the changing threats in your engine and adapts its own molecular structure for continuous protection. So whenever the driving conditions change, so does Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life.
Now get up to $6.60 back by mail when you buy a case of Quaker State, or up to $2.75 back by mail when you buy 5 quarts.
Hey, I'm not home. Just leave a message.
Tommy, the hot tub's getting cold. Where are you?
Yo, Tom, we're shooting pool. You coming or what?
Thomas, your birthday dinner's in the oven. Everyone's waiting. Tommy, if you're there, pick up. Tommy?
Back at Texas World, the number 75 Nissan is back in the pits, and Marty Reed is there.
Well, the trials and tribulations of this race just continue for everybody. Johnny O'Connell had the water pump belt come off. The car was overheating, and he is in here. This has been a very long extended stay. The crew has been working on it, but of course his chances of winning have gone, shall we say, down the drain.
Well, we could say that if we were brave enough to make that pun, Marty. Thanks anyway. Meanwhile, up the pit lane, here's Bill Auberland, who took the pole for this race and has led the GTS2 category from the green flag. There you see 2 items in every team's arsenal this weekend in Texas, water and ice.
But this time it looks like it's going inside the car for the driver cooling, which in Bill's case, since he's running the whole race alone, that driver cooling is going to be really important to him on a hot day like this. To keep that body temperature down is really an important factor.
Most of our drivers running cool suits, circulating fluid that runs through an ice box, basically, cooled by the ice and water you just saw going into Bill Auberland's Mazda. We have more action in the pit lane as we are now into the 3rd hour of this Seitel Texas World Grand Prix. Once again, here's Marty.
Irv Hare is back in for what should be his final stop. And the GTE MobileNet crew, Bricks Racing, send along our best to Harry. I know he is watching this after going through that heart bypass surgery. This is going to get your blood boiling a little bit, as your team's doing pretty doggone good today. And he is down and away.
We've seen a lot of people throwing water at him today and trying to cool him down, but they have that high pressure system. They can refill the radiator right out there. And the other thing we noticed that time, there was no steam, there was no brake smoke, nothing coming off the car that time. It looks like he's running a lot cooler than he was before.
Rick's Oldsmobile GTS1 team looking very good. Irv Hare comes back out following the Jim Pace car. Now here, the Ferrari number 3 of Fermin Velez remains in the pits. We saw them bring that car in and take the rear bodywork off, and now they're just sort of looking at each other and shrugging.
Right down the way, we've got the car of James Weaver, and he hasn't been able to move either. Just incredible circumstance. I guess it's good because it's going to make the championship so much better.
It will definitely be tighter when this one is over. Stand by. We'll have more from Texas in a moment.
At the heart of the new Aurora is a powerful 32-valve dual overhead cam V8. It lets you drive 100,000 miles before your first tune-up. It lets you go up to 50 miles in the event of total coolant loss. And for anyone who wants to know how powerful it is, that was Texas you just drove through. It's your money.
Bridgestone, the next revolution in tires.
So what are you doing later?
I'm going to watch my boys kick your alma mater's butt.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So what are you going to do? You going to fly across country?
No, I'm going to watch it right here.
Right.
Thanks to ABC College Football on ESPN pay-per-view, your ticket to the best gridiron action is just a phone call away. Catch blockbuster matchups that you can't see in your local area.
How did you get this?
I got my connections.
Back at Texas World, we anticipate the safety car coming off and going back to green flag racing. Here comes the yellow Ferrari, and here comes the race leader, Wayne Taylor.
All right, the tactical plan by Moretti's team is to leave Wayne Taylor in, and they decided to wait for the splash and go. This will get them to the finish line. They wanted to do this right as the green flag came out. The reason being, they didn't want to give that lap back to everybody. They want to make them go earn it, and he's out of here. He'll be at the tail end of the field.
Well, that's interesting. We'll have to wait and see if it plays out for Wayne Taylor.
Second gear. All right, you got it, man. You're going to be, you're still a lap ahead of everybody, so you'll have a clear track and you'll be a lap ahead.
Ooh, Kevin Durant with some interesting tactical thinking there.
Well, it's interesting, but you know, with the way these rules work, if he does pull in early, the pace car stays out, sends everybody around, and they make up the lap, so he has to wait till it's green.
There's Michele Alboreto. Here comes Greg T. Nelson in the purple and white Oldsmobile-powered Spice, and then John Paul Jr. in the number 20 Ford R&S Mark III.
John seems to be running very well again after his stop in the pits, an extra long stop. Alboreto's car, for all the shunts it's been in, is running very well also. Those two cars are both running good.
There's the battle in GTS2 after Bill Auberlin's pit stop. See the Vardy Trejos Porsche. Joe Vardy now driving, has assumed the lead in that class. Oh, Auberlin almost got chopped there by the Ferrari.
Well, it was close. Vardy should be fresher now because he just got in the car, and Auberlin's been in the car all day long on this hot day. You would think that would slow him down some. But he's been very strong in a lot of the races. But this is going to be a good race.
That was Wayne Taylor, the race leader, who set Bill Auberlin's heart pounding there.
Boy, that just is single file in that area, isn't it? You can't do anything. No matter how fast you are, the fastest car in the race, you just still got to follow through that section or take a big chance.
It'll be the Porsche flat 6-cylinder power up against the Mazda rotary. And the Porsche appears to have the legs on Auberlin's car.
It certainly does. He seems to pull away very well, yet Auberlin seems to be able to make it up in the infield again.
Wayne Taylor runs out the bottom of your picture. Here comes the Mazda Hawk for Roger Mandeville and Henry Campherdam. Then our GTS2 race leader.
Heading for the infield where, if we've seen it correctly before, the Mazda should be catching up. Surprising that Hawk isn't any faster in the infield than the RX-7.
It's been a tough development for Roger Mandeville, who has done all the design and construction work on that car. Henry Campherdam and his support net company have financed it. If I'm not mistaken, that Hawk shares the same engine with Bill Auberlin's GTS2 car. But as you mentioned earlier, EFR, it does have the advantage of the advanced aerodynamics and the downforce that allows it to corner much more quickly.
And now he'll pull away on the banking again because he's got the distance to go with the more horsepower down the straight. And here's Irv Hare coming down, still leading the GTS1 class over Darren Brassfield. And it should be just the two Oldsmobiles running for the class lead right now.
In fact, it is Oldsmobiles running 1, 2, and 3 at this point, as Charles and Rob Morgan have gone around Johnny O'Connell's stranded Nissan. They now run third to Irv Hare and Darren Brassfield in the factory Oldsmobiles.
It looks like Oldsmobile will wrap up the championship with them running 1, 2, 3 at the moment and the Nissan out of the picture.
Meanwhile, Johnny O'Connell has brought the Nissan back out onto the racetrack. But he is well behind following that long stop to try to get the heat down in that engine.
It's interesting going up on the banking that the bumps don't seem to bother the Oldsmobile near as much as it does the WSC cars with the high spring rates and the high downforce. compared to what the Oldsmobiles do. It should be a little easier drive for them, even though they have a hotter, I believe, cockpit to work with.
Across the start-finish line one more time for Irv Hare, looking for his 35th victory in IMSA road racing competition. And there, emerging from the pits after a long stop to change the alternator and perform other mechanical chores, James Weaver, second in points, is out. Fermin Velez remains in the pits, but Weaver obviously not up to speed. I guess at this point he's just running for points.
Yeah, he looks like he's running very slowly now, waving everybody by, trying to stay out of the way. Not a good day for James. I'm sure that he wished it was going some other way. This is a real struggle. He didn't even get to race hard today.
Absolutely. Whoops, now the Nissan was back, but now it is down. That's Johnny O'Connell on the left. And it looks like they're going to bring fire extinguishers to bear.
You know, Johnny O'Connell looks like he's firefighting out there for the guys. Must have caught the grass on fire under the car with the heat of the car and the dry grass here.
That was either dust or perhaps extinguishant on the car. He may have hit the onboard extinguishers. Now Johnny O'Connell picks up an extinguisher. Wayne Taylor is getting an interesting view of the world with his head tilted over to one side, trying to loosen up those neck muscles.
What do you call 10 pieces of plump, tender, golden fried chicken, a family-sized mashed potatoes, a side order of gravy, and 4 buttermilk biscuits? We call it our mix and mash meal. You'll call it one heck of a deal. Because only golden fried chicken gives you so much for so little. With every piece marinated, hand-battered, and fried to a crispy golden brown. So for a delicious deal, try the mix and mash meal from Golden Fried Chicken.
This used car deals in the world come to Falls Lincoln Mercury. For the best selection of quality used cars, trucks, and vans in Texoma with Warranty Plus, come to Falls Lincoln Mercury. That's right. Buy a used car, truck, or van from Falls Lincoln Mercury and receive a 30-day or 1,000-mile used car guarantee. Discover the used car difference, where customer satisfaction and Warranty Plus is your guarantee. At Falls Lincoln Mercury, your world-class dealer, 2900 Henry Grace Freeway.
Something we haven't seen all day. The yellow Ferrari safety car comes off, and we are ready to go green flag racing once again at the Sitel Texas World Grand Prix. Wayne Taylor takes his Ferrari out front, but here's the battle to watch. GTS 2.
It's good. Joe Vardy coming fresh. He's not driven the first part of the race. Arbelin with his fresh ice in his cooler ready to go. And Joe coming off his win at Mossport. Great win, last lap pass. But Arbelin wants to get back up there and win this race, get that point lead and keep it.
Meanwhile, Craig T. Nelson drives underneath with his World Sports car. Now Oberlin's going to try to follow him through.
Great move. Joe had to move out wide for the WSC car, and he followed him right on through. And matter of fact, they're ending up putting a couple cars between them now.
We've got traffic, high-speed traffic as well on the infield here at Texas World Speedway. Now they string out single file, but Bill Oberlin definitely got the better of that exchange with Joe Vardy.
That was good, but now we also know that the Porsche is faster on the banking, so we'll see, and maybe he can get a draft from some of these cars going by to get it to help him go up there.
That's one of the GTS1 Oldsmobiles going high side, and even higher than that is one of the Ford R&S Mark IIIs.
And here comes Vardy coming back up on the Mazda right now. And look at that speed difference he's got coming off of there. Incredible.
Joe Vardy's been doing this for a long time, not always in the best possible drives, but he's got a good one today, and he's taking advantage of it. He drives back into the lead in the Exxon Supreme GTS 2 category.
But this is where the Mazda shines on the infield, so we can look at Oberlin trying to make a pass, maybe even making it, but he's going to try, well, he's going to make it same place.
Same place, same move. This time he doesn't have the benefit of traffic, but he makes it stick anyway. Does Bill Oberlin. Yokohama tires on his car, Goodyear's on the Porsche. Up ahead of them are the two GTS1 class leaders, Irv Hare and Darren Brassfield.
This is a hard time to race, too, because right after you get a caution flag, you've got all the fast cars that are in the back. You're trying to race somebody. You're trying to stay out of people's way and not block them so somebody doesn't punch you for some reason and still race the guy in front of you.
There's Here's a look at the GTS2 driver points. Joe Vardy has run just one race, and he won it, picking up the full 25 points. Jorge Trejos, who leads the points, is his co-driver for today's race. So you can bet old Jorge is jumping up and down in the pits.
Yeah, I'll bet he is. And the important thing is that Arbelin has to beat this car, not to beat Vardy, but to beat Trejos, because he's racing the car, not the guy right at the moment, and he wants to get that point lead away from Trejos. And it's going to be tough the way Joe's driving today.
That white Porsche, number 99 in the background, is third in class, but they're a lap down. Larry Schumacher and Andy Pilgrim sharing it this weekend.
And Arbelin is really driving hard. You see him under brakes there, getting it sideways back and forth. He's braking his team. He's trying to break that draft and get away from Joe Vardy as best he can. It just isn't working. That Porsche is just a little too strong on the straightaway.
It's a flat-out sprint from here on out. We do not expect a lot of pit action from here to the checkered flag. Once more back up on the banking. Watch for the Porsche to close in with the horsepower advantage.
And the draft now. He's got a good draft on Arbelin so that he can come up, slingshot by, and this time he's taking the bottom side. Boy, down onto the flat and everything.
Yeah, the transition is so bumpy. That's a dangerous move. Meanwhile, they've got faster competition up the outside as that Mazda Hawk comes slinging by.
That's probably why he was looking to the bottom. He looked in his mirror and saw Debbie. Boy, look how fast Arbelin went by right away this time. I wonder if that means if he can pull away in the infield, he may be able to get enough of a lead that the Porsche won't be able to go by this time. That still looks like the Porsche's right on him still, though.
I'm not sure, but that Mazda Hawk up ahead isn't holding up these GTS2 cars just a little bit. You'd think it would lap a lot faster in the infield, but he's certainly not drawn away from them.
It's amazing how close they stayed to him when the fact is that they don't have the downforce. The GTS2 cars should be fast on the banking because they don't have any downforce, but they're actually quite quick in the infield. Vardy's got a big hole here to make up this time. It looks like he's making it up, but not as fast as he did before.
Interesting how it takes him a second to get up on the cams and develop all of that horsepower. Looks like he might just be a car length short this time unless he wants to do it on the brakes, and Robin Morgan goes flying by.
Well, he got by, but it isn't by much. Ugh. I thought Arbelin might be able to get away from it that time, but Joe's been able to just get up there and do it right back underneath it. Man, that car handles well.
You bet. A dab on the brakes, the flash of the taillights told you. Bill Arbelin goes down the inside. Now Joe Vardy looking down the outside, but there's traffic there. See how much of a lead Arbelin is going to have to hold the Porsche behind him for the whole lap.
You can see that Mazda staying with the GTS1 car through the infield this time. Those cars are handling extremely well. You know, the other thing is they're lighter weight than a lot of the other cars, so what happens after you've been out on a long stint in the car, the tires don't heat up as much on a hot day like today, and they actually will work quite well in the infield because the tires have gone off on some of the other cars.
Foot to the floor. Bill Arbelin makes his way through the 22-degree banking, but not far away. Here he comes, Joe Vardy in the red number 55 Porsche. And once again, he'll take him under braking for turn one.
Boy, he's just barely getting by. Arbelin's coming up the inside. He's not letting him have it this time.
Now he's going to try to build up that infield gap that he can take up onto the banking. Boy, tremendous cornering power for the Mazda.
Yeah, nobody's in front of him this time, but he doesn't seem to be able to pull away. He just seems to be able to just have enough to keep a lead. Joe Vardy sitting in the car, barely seeing over the steering wheel. Needs another cushion under him, maybe.
He may not be tall, but he is powerful, and he has been doing this for, I guess, about 20 years or so.
He is an underrated driver in a lot of circles, too, because Joe does a super job in any car he gets in. And the other thing is Joe does an excellent job on car preparation. He prepares cars for a lot of people in a lot of different series and runs strong everywhere he is. Here he comes back at him again. This is a great race. Uh-oh, Joe may not make it this time. Just got enough right at the end. He's right there. And cuts down in front of him this time, so he can't get that was close. Oh, man. He didn't want him going down the inside this time. He's going to try and hold him off.
I was going to say that's Arbelin's big corner, turn one, and that was very close to a kiss and tell.
It looks like Joe's determined to hold the lead all the way. Well, it doesn't look like he's going to do it, but he's going to try and hold the lead to the bank and see if he can pull away rather than just go by this time.
Wondering if the Mazda doesn't have a little bit more wing than that Porsche does, too. Meanwhile, up on the point, Wayne Taylor appearing to have things all his own way. He's got clean track and the race lead by a lap over the field.
He's had a strong day, and he must be getting tired. We saw it under the caution, him working his neck, trying to get it stretched out again, because this banking is extremely hard on the neck, especially when you're going to, whoa, boy, what a move there. I don't think that the Oldsmobile saw him coming and just moved over in front of him.
Getting into the waning laps, Wayne Taylor is out front, Michele Alboreto in second, and then Irv Hare, the GTS1 leader.
In the middle of my workday, I don't do power lunches. I do power lifts. And when you work out this hard, better use a deodorant that works hard too. That's why I use Speed Stick. It gives me 110% protection that lasts all day. And fortunately, all night. Because while I may not have time for lunches, I always manage to find some time for dinner.
Speed Stick, like you, it never quits. And try new Speed Stick Clear for clear protection that never quits.
By minute.
Bridgestone, the next revolution in tires.
Back at Texas World Speedway, you're looking at a pair of leaders. Wayne Taylor in the red and white Ferrari leads the world sports car class, and there, number 4 is Irv Hare leading the GTS1 Exxon Supreme category. We're in the late laps of this race, and it appears that Irv Hare will pick up his 35th career IMSA victory, and with it, the manufacturer's championship for Oldsmobile.
These guys have done a heck of a job today, too. Irv Hare going out there driving alone. The matter of fact, Wayne Taylor driving alone, and Alberto. These guys have, it's been a very, very hot day. The track conditions are very rough. It's demanding on the banking. To do a single driver stint here has got to be a tough deal.
No question about it. The G-forces built up in these cars are extraordinary. Ferrari, such as the example being driven there by Wayne Taylor, lead the world sports car manufacturer stakes over Ford and Oldsmobile. We return to our GTS2 battle here. Bill Auberlen and Joe Vardy still having all kinds of fun.
Vardy looked like he got stuck just a little bit there, and it's just enough that Auberlen's going in here with a big lead this time. I think it's going to be tough for Joe to make that back up on the banking, because Auberlen's got a straight run and was not passed by Vardy at all. So this may be the end of this race right now if Auberlen can get up on the bank with enough lead that Vardy can't get back by him.
Wouldn't be surprised if, whoops.
He got held up a little.
Indeed he did. Bill Auberlen, but now he has a lapped car between himself and Vardy.
But he can't get out on the banking like he wants.
Now the track will open up again. Auberlen goes underneath his opponent. Vardy goes high.
And then if Vardy can get a draft off, oh, it looks like a pretty big gap to make up. But look at Vardy make it up. But I think you made a good point. I think that they got more downforce on the Mazda, and that may be why he's slower on the bank and so much quicker in the infield. But Vardy's not going to make it this time. Close. That was Weaver going around the inside still.
James Weaver still going slowly. This has been the biggest headache story of this race. He got into the better placed of the two Fords, hoping to open up ground, that is close some ground, for the Drivers' Championship on Fermin Velez, but it has not worked. The car has struggled all the time that Weaver's been in it. But the same holds true for Velez and his Ferrari, so it appears they will not move relative to one another in the Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, this GTS2 battle continues.
Yeah, and it does go in Velez's favor, because now there's less races to pick up the 7 points, and it gets harder and harder for James Weaver to pick up those points. But this race looks like Auberlen has now got a big enough lead on Vardy that he may not be able to make it back up again.
In the GTS2 manufacturer's chase, this battle figures prominently. Porsche came into this race leading Mazda, and not by very much. So with only Phoenix and New Orleans remaining on the 1995 schedule, that battle could go right down to the wire.
It's going to be a good fight. And it looks like Oberlin has got the lead now, and unless something happens where he gets caught in traffic, he should be able to have it. Oh, boy. It gets exciting with the closing rates of these cars, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Especially with the lenses, so you see them make these changes. Sometimes it's not quite as scary from the inside of the car as it is from outside because you're expecting something, but when you're watching from outside the car, it looks much worse than sometimes it is.
Well, let's hope so. We certainly don't want a class leader taking out a class leader.
And those great closing rates. It's very hard to judge sometimes because you make a judgment, and sometimes the slower car will try and get out of your way, or and instead makes a move that you didn't expect. It was a nice move. Unfortunately, you didn't expect it. You still get up and collect each other.
Bill Oberlin, for the moment at least, firmly in control of the GTS2 battle.
Seems to have pulled out enough of a lead now that it's going to be very difficult, and nobody in front of him this lap in the infield to block him, so it looks like he's going to be able to pull out a little bit more of a lead here.
Oh, that Porsche looked to me like he was almost taking that left front wheel right off the ground.
I don't think Joe has given up yet.
Absolutely not. Whoa!
He's driving the wheels off that rascal, trying to catch up. He's not giving up. He's going to try and make this the best he can.
Somebody told Joe Vardy he was out in sprint car country, so he's going to drive his 911 as though it were a sprint car. Meanwhile, Bill Oberlin, with that Mazda sticking so well on those Yokohama tires, appears to have been able to assert an advantage over Vardy. With just a few laps left, he might be able to hold on for the GTS2 victory.
He's going to, and that'll tighten up the points just a little bit more. Not a lot with the first and second, but it still helps where Oberlin can get up there. He's had some very good results this year. It'd be good to see him, and a tight points race at the end of the year is always fun. I've enjoyed him when he went, whoa, boy, even when I wasn't part of it. Coming off at a high-speed place like that, that is tough. When you have to miss somebody like that. Didn't get by either.
Now that's Darren Brassfield in the number 5 Oldsmobile being held up just a bit. Now it appears he will get around. Well, no, I take that back. Bill Oberlin not giving up any ground at all to the GTS1 car. And in reality, he shouldn't, because he's in a battle here. He has to hold his position and try to stay ahead of Vardy. So really, Brassfield can't expect Oberlin to jump straight up in the air just to let him by because he's quicker.
No, it's very important that he doesn't right now. Brassfield may get a little upset at that because he feels he's the faster car. The white flag out. Boy, but that's a welcome sight right now to a lot of people out there.
You bet.
Especially to this man, Wayne Taylor.
Having driven the whole way, I'll bet once or twice. Gently now, boys. Ooh, that was close.
Yeah, last lap. You don't want to put that on the last lap, especially when you got a one-lap lead.
Number 82 car of Dick Greer and Peter Urea.
But this is a good finish. And oops, he went a little wide there. Missed it just a little bit.
It's Alboreto coming up. I think he wants to get by and make up his lap. And I thought for a moment Taylor was going to one side of the track to let him through. But then he got back on the power.
Yeah, I think he just missed the corner a little bit. Concentration. Last lap is quite often very hard laps, especially when you got a big lead. The last few laps you hear people making, hearing noises and stuff, but its concentration gets hard at the end. Whoa!
Michele Alboreto is going to battle right to the finish. This will make a nice picture for Ferrari. The Momo car and the Scandi Engineering car across the line. Wayne Taylor on the left wins his second race of the 1995 season here at the Seitel Texas World Grand Prix. There is your GTS2 race leader, and at this point I think we can say confidently race winner, although there's the red number 55 Porsche of Joe Vardy, who's going to push Bill Oberlin right to the checkered flag.
Boy, that was a close race. It wasn't, I thought he'd pull away, but he never really got to pull away much. Just enough to win it, and that's it. Great race by both drivers.
And our GTS1 winner is Irv Hare in the Oldsmobile. And with that, Oldsmobile locks up the 1995 Exxon Supreme GTS1 Manufacturers Championship. While Joe Vardy has a thumbs up for Bill Oberlin for a race well run. Here comes Irv Hare celebrating his 35th career victory and that all-important manufacturer's title for Olds. We'll be back in a moment to sum things up from Texas World Speedway. Stand by. Lots more to come from the Seitel Texas World Grand Prix.
next revolution in tires.
No trendy health club. No $60 shorts. No bull. Speed Stick's no-nonsense formula gives you 110% protection. Like you, it never quits.
A top assassin wants out, another wants in. But to be number one, he must eliminate the competition. Sylvester Stallone, Antonio Banderas, Assassins. Directed by Richard Donner. Rated R. Starts Friday, October 6th.
Boring. Well, so how many high school boys does it take to change a light bulb?
Want to light up your life? Yeah! Give me those Slim Jim! Turn to the spice! Baby, do the taste! Need a little excitement? Step into a Slim Jim!
This ESPN Speed World presentation, the Exxon World Sports Car Championship, has been brought to you by Cytel, world-renowned for seismic expertise. By Oldsmobile and your local Oldsmobile retailers. And by Bridgestone, the next revolution in tires. Back at Texas World Speedway, Wayne Taylor, a very tired Wayne Taylor, climbs out in victory lane, and Marty Reed is standing by to talk with our winner.
All right, Wayne Taylor, I don't know. I know you don't want to probably climb out of there right now. Physically, this had to be one of the most grueling wins of your career.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, 3 hours around here, it's really, really hard work, you know, the heat and less than a minute lap. It's just so demanding, you know, and a small guy like me with all the G-forces and stuff, and but you know, the team did one hell of a job again, and my real big thanks to Giampiero Moretti for staying out of the car. And the guy who stood by me from the beginning, Dan Doyle from Danko. Everybody from Konica, everybody that supported me, you know, this is what we have to do to pay them back. So I'm just happy we pulled it off here today. So I'm really happy.
As far as the race itself, was the only thing you kept thinking about the fact was Michele probably felt as bad as you did?
Well, you know, if it wasn't Michele Alboreto, I'd have probably let him go, but to me, he was a Formula One god. You know, he was my hero. So I thought, well, let me try and race him, even though I was a lap ahead. I just wanted to do it for my own self, and he drove a hell of a race. But I knew that he was in for 3 hours as well, so he must have been pretty knackered.
Congratulations, great win.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations indeed to Wayne Taylor. He, after all, is an endurance driver. Michele Alboreto hasn't spent 3 hours in a race car in a very long time. Here's a look at the driver point standings with 9 rounds down, 2 more to go. Fermin Velez by 7 points over James Weaver. Mauro Baldi in 3rd, Jim Pace in 4th, Wayne Taylor in 5th. A 5-man race for the 1995 title. One title has been clinched. The Exxon Supreme GTS-1 manufacturers honors will go to Oldsmobile. We still have manufacturers battles in GTS-2 and the Exxon World Sports Car Championship, plus all 3 of our drivers' titles still at stake with 2 races remaining. Elliott Forbes Robinson, your final thoughts as we review the total final results.
I think it's going to be some great racing going into the last 2 races. Baldi actually picked up points on the 2 leaders this time by spending time in the car. And I think that the next couple races, I don't think it's going to be no holds barred. It's just going to be go out and race the heck out of the car.
It's going to be breathless stuff. We'll have a Saturday night race in Phoenix, Arizona. Once again, a combined oval and infield road course. And then we return to New Orleans, Louisiana for a street race in the heart of Old New Orleans near the Superdome. I'm Bob Varsha for Elliott Forbes Robinson and Marty Reed. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you at Phoenix and then in New Orleans, where we'll wrap up the 1995 IMSA Exxon World Sports Car Championship. For now, so long from Texas World Speedway in College Station, Texas.